Okay, good evening. 7 p.m. I'm waiting for my partner to show up here. Welcome to Abnormal Alabama Creepy Kids Night. And we've got some fascinating stories. Let me see where my buddy is here. And did I get him? Yeah. Where are we? Where are we? Where are we? Up, 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 I don't see anybody with me, but it's 7 o'clock. Is there an issue with the stream tonight? Well, I don't think so, but we'll find out shortly. Let me make sure that I've got him the right link. Bear with me here just a moment, guys. We are streaming at this moment, I believe, right? Yeah. Okay. And we go back over here. Okay. I think Kevin did some kind of podcast about scary or creepy things kids say. And I think we're going to talk about that a little bit. While I'm waiting on him, and I'm going to continue on, I don't know what the problem is, but I show that everything's going smoothly. So let me just do a little brief introduction as I'm going along here. Number one, I think that the news is that everybody knows what the news is. Coronavirus has taken over the world, and it's really finally affected everything we're doing here. And let me make sure that I've got audio going. Just want to make sure everything is smooth as she rolls here. All right. Bear with me one moment. All right. Bear with me one moment. Okay. It all looks good. All right. Bear with me one moment. It all looks good. Okay. So I don't know. Waiting. Kevin was with me a while ago, and now he's lost. But I'm going to spend a minute since I'm waiting on Kevin, and we're going to be talking about these entities that are looking over my shoulder here as the evening progresses. I think I got the lighting a little bit better here, adjusted with that some. So everything is really locked down, except for essential stuff. We all know that this coronavirus is spreading. It is very dangerous. So the whole thing is stay at home. And with this technology we have today, that would not be as hard to do, you would think, that it was at some point. Now, I know when I went, I had to drive somewhere, did not get out of the vehicle. But I know the grocery stores are just packed full of people. Lowe's and Home Depot are just, at least the parking lots were totally full. So I don't know what's up. Well, I do know what's up. You know, it's. But if you please try to stay at home, that's the key to it right there. And it's affected a lot of people's income, including mine. All the weddings that we had scheduled are being postponed till like October, November, later in the year, and it of course has a dramatic effect on our income. But I do have a way to make $1 if you'll help. This is the book that most fitting for what I'm doing here in this show, Abnormal Alabama. This is called Dating the Dead. It is on Amazon. I also have a version of it on Lulu.com. Look under my name, Dr. Kelsey Graham. Okay, now I believe that my partner's coming up here. There he is, finally. Hello. beginning to worry about you there.
My real estate agent called, got me stuck on the phone. I told her I'm about to do a live show. She said, "Okay, well, take a minute."
Well, that's okay. I was promoting my books while you were. I was letting everybody know that Kevin is kind of fortunate. The only thing that's affected with his situation is he gets to work from home. In my situation, all these weddings that we've had booked are postponing till like October and November, and rightfully so, in my opinion. But it's very hard on the pocketbook. So you can always get one of my books right here. One of my books. I got a bunch of them. Just look for me. Just look for me. I had to work hard the last. It's a good thing I had all this dead time because Kevin had 11 books, and I had to catch up with him.
There's what
So
was down.
There you go. Get it right. There's this clickbait. I mean, Crimson. I keep accusing him of having chosen Crimson because of the Crimson Tide, and he says no. I guess he's an Auburn fan. Then I don't know.
No, Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. All right. My Tide comes in the box, so I can't roll it.
Mine's in a bottle.
Well, we're trying, first of all, Kevin is in a major transition in his life. He's moving to a bigger house, and it's going to have some land. You're going to be a rancher, I guess. You're going to have some cattle out there.
We'll have a horse out there, but I don't know.
There you
go. Beyond that, any ranching I'm going to do.
So it's now Cowboy Kevin.
I got to buy some boots.
I've seen pictures. It looks like a beautiful place he's moving into. The point is, though, and how it affects us is he's got all his poor dolls are in cold storage. And
climate controlled.
Climate control storage. And so I'm sure that they're probably. I hope they don't destroy that place. But anyway, last week we talked about UFOs because a week ago I had a fascinating UFO experience I caught on video. And then I think, Kevin, you just did a podcast on creepy things kids say.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, between that and I've always wanted to talk about these dark-eyed kids, these black-eyed kids. So kind of, in my opinion, kind of go hand in hand. And that's why I got these gorgeous little babes behind me here. Don't you wish you could wake up and see one of them staring over your bed, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess we'll open up the show tonight with Kevin. Tell us about your podcast, The Creepy Things Kids Say. And I guess you've got a few stories to share in that line of what kids have said that is spooky.
Yeah, I got to, and that was kind of a last minute thing last night when I did the episode. I'm pulling some stuff up here. And I picked out a story, a Japanese urban legend to tell called White Lies, about this girl that tells a few lies to her mother and then it gets her into a very deadly situation because of that. So that got me thinking as I was planning that story. I said, I've been reading and enjoying a slew. I mean, there are thousands of, probably hundreds of pages, thousands of posts of people who have written into different sites or podcasts or whatever and shared creepiest things in real life, creepiest things they've heard children say. And I've been enjoying those for a while now. And I got to thinking last night as I started the podcast, instead of a story, a slew of these things. All these are just, some of them are a few sentences or several sentences that people have posted. The creepiest things they've heard their children or their neighbors or family's children or, children out and about just randomly say that will creep the mess out of you. And I'm going to read a few of these. These are creepy here.
Okay,
here's one.
If you're listening here, make sure you've got a strong drink or hold on to your chair real tightly. I have a feeling you may get creeped out with these stories. So pay attention to man, what these kids say.
All right, now here's the first one. And like I said, these are posts that people put out here. There's no names or locations. They didn't put that out there for privacy. So these are all anonymous. So here's comment number 1. When my sister was 4, she walked by my bed and saw scissors. She stopped, looked back at them, and then said, "You know, I could chop your head off with these. Good night." And then the next one. When my son was 3, we were driving at night and passed a big empty house with no lights on. He pointed to the house, started waving his tiny hand, and said, "There's a clown in there." Since then, I've refused to take that road ever since.
Okay, would that
All
be
right, the next one?
What's the clown on it? What's that clown?
Oh, Pennywise.
Pennywise. Oh, Pennywise. Okay.
And there is a picture of Pennywise with that with that comment. So, all right, the next one. I was a camp counselor, and while running a program called Paint the Counselors, a 4-year-old leaned in behind me, started painting my hair, and whispered in my ear, "I'm going to peel off all your skin." Man, these things are crazy. All right, number 4. My daughter and I went for a walk through a cemetery
Hold on.
while we waited for my son to finish his piano lessons next door. She stopped dead in the middle of the graveyard, pointed at a grave, spaced out, and said, "This is where you're going to sleep forever."
Oh, gosh. Now, wait a minute. Kevin, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, back up to that other one. I'm going to skin you. What was that again?
Yeah, she is a camp counselor running a program called Paint the Counselors. They do these activities at the summer camps and whatnot. And there was a 4-year-old joining in that was behind her, started painting her hair, and whispered in her ear, "I'm going to peel off all your skin."
Oh, God.
And that's all there is.
Whose kids are these?
I don't know. So this makes me want for them to tell, where is this? Where can I stay away from if they've got?
I started saying it makes you want to have kids, don't it?
No. All right, here's the next one. One of my preschool students decided to tell us about the man who watches over her from her doorway while she sleeps. She told us that he gets very close to her face, and when she tells him to leave her alone, he disappears. So spooky. All right, and the next one. I walked into the bathroom to get my 4-year-old out of the bath, and she quietly said, "Mom, all my toys are dead. I held them under the water, and now they're dead." She then whispered over and over again, "Dead in the water, dead in the water."
Oh, God.
Dead in the water. Now, these are scarier than just reading fictional horror stories.
Does it give the age of these kids?
Some of them do. This one said it was a 4-year-old that did this in the bathtub.
God almighty.
Some of these give ages and some don't. Let's see. Here's one. My mom's grandfather died very close to her wedding day. When my brother was born and first learned to talk, he'd always talk about a man named Steve. Steve was my great-grandfather's name. My mom asked what Steve looked like, and he described my great-grandfather perfectly. My brother would talk about how Steve would take him fishing and everything. One day, my brother woke up from a nap and said, "Steve left. He says he loves us, and he will see us again soon." Ooh, that gives me willies up my spine.
That's that's like, I'm not interested in seeing you again soon, right?
Not that soon.
We'll see you way down the road somewhere.
Maybe 30 years soon, or for me anyway. Here's a short but creepy one. My 4-year-old daughter, this 4-year-old, my 4-year-old daughter randomly said to me, I want to know what the inside of your head looks like.
Well,
Now, this is
in my case, it would be kind of empty and vacant. So,
these are, I mean, you could just you could take these and just go with it and make a horror story. The next one, okay. I was in a grocery store and walked by when a mother with her 5-year-old was there. The little boy smiled and waved, so I smiled and waved back. Then he said, you should eat your friends for dinner. That's what we do.
oh God. Okay. And then, of course, what's over your head behind you there on the shelf?
What's over there? There's a little haunted clown doll.
Well, the
Thing,
yeah,
Michael Myers.
Michael Myers. That's it. Okay. But he didn't eat people alive, though, did he?
No, he didn't. He just sliced him up on his way.
You keep on telling them. This is going to lead to some interesting conversation here when you get through, because yeah, just keep on.
Okay. All right, here's the next one. My cousin's front door randomly opened by itself, and her 3-year-old son said, hi, Uncle Pat. Pat was my cousin's brother who died 10 years earlier, but her son had never even been told about him. Now, that's some creepy ghost stuff right there.
Well, that is not an unusual thing to hear, though. You know, I'm sure you've heard all kinds of stories about something like that.
Yeah, I was only about 4 when I saw my first full-bodied apparition, and she looked like a real solid person to me. So
yeah. Well, what I'm talking about is that kids will know something about somebody that they shouldn't know about.
Yeah,
a brother, a granddad, uncle, or something. You know. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've heard a lot of stories like that.
Yeah, me too. I've heard a lot about that. All right, my little cousin came home and started staring at all the Christmas decorations. He said, it will take 11 days. 11 days later, we went out for dinner, and an intruder broke in and took most of our decorations. That goes right along what we were just saying about kids knowing things. So that's pretty freaky. All right, here's the next one. I was changing my daughter's diaper in the middle of the night when my 2-year-old came in and stood next to me. She looked at me with a big smile and in a sing-song voice said, Mommy, there's someone behind you. The scary thing was that we were home alone. Yeah, that would make my hair stand up too.
Yeah, well, you're truly home alone now that you got most of the dolls stored. Is anything strange happening around your house since you raided it?
It's been quiet. I can't speak for the storage unit, but I've not gotten any calls from them to say that, hey, there's a racket in there. What you got in there?
Have you? Do you get by there to check on them?
Yeah, I went by there actually. It was earlier this week. I went by there to. Some of them were in real big boxes, and I'm not going to be able to fit those in the new house. So I was moving them into smaller boxes and breaking down the big ones. So I got to for an hour or so, and it felt peaceful in there. I could tell they were, excited to see me. But yeah, it felt peaceful.
Okay. All right. Well, let the kids.
Yeah. My friend's 4-year-old had an imaginary friend named Jenna. One time we were in the car and stopped at a red light next to a cemetery. She looked up and said, Bye, Jenna. Her mom asked where Jenna was going. She then pointed to the cemetery and said, Home. She lives there. Ooh. All right. And then the next one.
There's more people lives there than, okay.
All right. When our second daughter was born, our 3-year-old whispered in When our second daughter was born, our 3-year-old whispered in her ear, Tell me what God looks like. I forget. It freaked my husband and me both out. I imagine so.
I forget. Okay, that's a very interesting one there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That,
I don't even know what to think about that one.
well, it's kind of awestruck and creeped out at the same time.
Yeah.
All right. I was changing my daughter's shirt and I got a feeling that there was another person around, but we were home alone. My daughter looked behind me and said, "She's hanging from the roof, Mommy. Don't look." Never have I moved so fast in my life.
So
Wonder
did
who it
mommy
was she
look?
saw hanging from the roof.
Oh Lord. Okay.
There's another one I can probably tell by memory. I haven't seen on here yet. I was trying to find it, but that reminded me of another one. This lady told that creepiest thing her daughter said was when they moved into a new house, they had this big staircase going up the second floor, and she'd often see her daughter get on the stairs and look up at the landing where there was a banister, and she would point and giggle. And she did this several times. There was nothing there, but she would point at nothing and just giggle there at the banister, kind of over the banister. Finally, the mom asked her, "What are you giggling at?" She says, "The lady there." She said, what lady?" She said, "The lady that's there near the ceiling. She keeps making these funny faces." And then she said her daughter did a face like that, and you can imagine it looked like the face of somebody who had hung themselves. So that's pretty creepy. So they must have had a ghost in that house, somebody committed suicide. But here's the next one. I was watching TV and my 5-year-old sister cuddled up to me and started to make circles with her finger around my lips. She said, "A man is going to shoot you. You're going to die, you know, soon." She normally giggles when she lies, but this time she was straight-faced. I told her to stop, and she said, "It's the truth, I promise," which is what she was taught to say when she was telling the truth. I'd be watching my back after that. All right.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
My mom told stories about how when I was younger, I'd scream out of nowhere and point to a corner of the room and cry about a scary lady. 5 years later, when my brother was the same age that I was, he started screaming and pointing at that same corner, mentioning a scary lady. Ooh, man. No, that is crazy. That's like what happened when I was a kid in our childhood house. When I was about 5 or so, I'd wake up in the middle of the night to hear a lady's voice on the other side of the house calling out, "Kevin." I knew it wasn't my mother. She was the only woman in the house, and she was in the master bedroom across the hallway, sound asleep, snoring. So I knew it wasn't her, and I wasn't about to get up and go see who it was. And then when I talked
Were you
about
scared?
I was a little scared, but I just pulled the covers up and I managed, went away and I managed to go back to sleep. But
So how in the world, when we were kids, Kevin, how in the world did we think that covering our heads up was going to protect us?
I don't know. But what was even creepier was when I told my sister about it later on. She said that she would hear that too at that age, that it was calling her name, Tracy. So we both heard that. We knew our house was haunted.
Your eyeglasses are reflecting the screen of your computer.
I know. It looks goofy. I got squares like I'm a robot.
Virtual glasses.
I better read with them.
You got it.
One of my exes committed suicide. Shortly after, I was watching a movie with my niece and she looked up and asked, "Who's sitting next to you?" I told her that no one was, and she said, "No, there's a tall man with red hair sitting next to you. He says his name is Alex, and he says hi." My ex's name was Alex. Yeah, that would
did she
chill
kill
me
her ex?
right on it. Huh?
Did she kill her ex?
She just said he had passed away.
Oh, okay.
And here's
You know
some
that
more.
you know that
Uh,
that Netflix show everybody's watching, Joe Exotic.
yeah,
You've heard that, right?
yeah.
So now they're opening up a case of some. I don't know that much about the show, but I guess they opened up a new case because one of the females in it. I don't know if it's Joe Exotic's girl. I don't know what the relation is, but her husband came up missing, and somebody is insinuating that she fed his body to tigers or something.
Yeah, I'd seen the headline about that posted.
Did you see that?
Read the story, but I saw his name up there and that they were
Yeah.
investigating something. I don't know. Is that a Netflix show or is
I
that?
think it's Netflix. They've got, I don't know. He interesting character, I guess, but it's gotten to be pretty popular right now, I guess. I don't ever turn my TV on, so
Yeah.
okay. Got more creepy
Let's see.
things.
Yeah. Here's a creepy. Any parent would kind of get the willies from this. My wife was making a sandwich for our 4-year-old son. He was watching her really intently, and she asked what he was doing. He replied, "I'm watching you make a sandwich so I know how to do it when you die." Yeah, that would make me lose my appetite right there. And here's another one. I was cooking dinner one evening. My 4-year-old daughter came in and wanted to help. "You're not going to touch the stove, are you?" I asked. "No," she replied. Do you know why you shouldn't touch the stove?" I asked. She looked at me and in a very serious tone, she replied, "Because I might get burned and die, and then you'd have to eat me." Ugh. Wow. All right, here's a.
You might have to eat me.
Yeah, you might have to eat me. They should go join that little boy and his sandwich for dinner, the one that wants to see how it's made in case mommy dies. Okay. I was blowing my nose into a tissue, and my 6-year-old daughter asked if she could see it. I said no, and she responded with, "I promise I won't eat it." That's just kind of gross right there. All right.
So, anybody just joining us here, we're talking about this is Creepy Kids Night, and Kevin, right now, we've been going about 30 minutes, or I have. Kevin was late tonight, but so he's sharing these things that kids have said to like their parents or whatever, and some of these kids are like just like 3 years old, 4 years old, and whatnot, and that's pretty spooky stuff. We're also in a little bit. We're going to talk some more about that. I want to ask Kevin's opinion on. I'm sure he's heard some of the reincarnation stories about little kids knowing things supposedly of a previous life, and then we're going to talk about those black-eyed kids. You see them right here? Those black-eyed kids. We're going to talk about them too. So this is going to be a fun night. We're all kind of in a lockdown situation. We're not under a curfew or whatever, but there's really no point in going out because nothing's open. So we're going to entertain ourselves. And again, thank you, Kevin, for having this fascinating information. So, Kevin, keep on telling what these creepy kids been saying to their parents.
Okay. All right, this is a good one. This is spooky. When my son was 3, he started singing a Polish nursery rhyme that my husband's grandmother used to sing to all the babies in the family. She passed away before my son was born. We don't speak or sing Polish. Yeah, that sounds like grandma's been visiting her grandson from beyond the grave there. All right. My daughter, from a severe brain injury when she was 11 weeks old, was in a coma for 3 days. For years afterward, when it rained, she would comment, "This smells like God." So if you ever wondered what God smells like, you're welcome.
Okay, wait a minute.
That's a good one.
What smelled like God again?
The rain. Whenever it rained, she would comment, "This smells like God."
Well, I guess that would be. I mean, rain is part of nature, and I guess you could go with that. I hope it wasn't acid rain,
Oh, no.
but that's a strange thing to say. Regardless, that smells like God. Okay, well, all right, carry on.
Here's another one that ties in what we're talking about kids knowing things that they shouldn't naturally be able to know. Back in the day, my younger brother used to tell us about his other, it's in quotations, other grandparents and the blue house they used to live in. After always telling him he was making this up, he told our mother that he could bring us there. So we went for a drive. And this little 5-year-old gave her turn-by-turn directions for close to 45 minutes. We ended up about 4 to 5 towns away at a dead-end street with an abandoned blue house. Now that makes you think right there. Was this kid experiencing a
Now,
reincarnation? Was he a past life? He was 5 years old.
It sounds like one of those reincarnation stories. How old was that kid? Does it say?
He was 5 years old.
5 years old. He's a 5-year-old GPS machine. Okay.
Yeah, he knew exactly where to go to find this house. Oh, I like that somebody commented, there is something about innocent children that makes psychic messages possible. They are natural conductors to the real world. And I would say they are. All right, here's another one. Walking with my 2-year-old in a cemetery by our house, she said, "Mommy, who is that man in the red jacket by the stone house?" She pointed to a mausoleum. There was no one else in the cemetery. "He's waving at me," she waved back. "He's coming over to talk." Ooh, I think I would have been booking it out of there about that time.
Was he the
Actually, I would have wanted. There was nobody there. So
Oh,
this
wow.
little girl was seeing a ghost, apparently, from that mausoleum. Actually, now I would have probably myself, I would have wanted to whip out a spirit box and see if I could communicate. But
Are you sure
All right.
Spirit Box or EVP? Which one?
yeah, well, okay. Yeah, I like spirit box. Yeah, I could have done EVP and played it
Yeah.
back.
I like Spirit Box better because you don't have to go back and listen to hours of stuff.
Yeah. I want to hear live in person, live from the cemetery. It's Saturday night.
Okay, from Alabama. Okay.
All right. My daughter was about 5 years old, when she says, you're the best mommy I ever had. I said, "I'm the only mommy you've ever had." She looks at me and says, "No, you're the third one, but I like you the best." Yeah, that's creepy. All right.
I'd be wanting to find out what the hubby's been up to.
I hadn't thought of that. I would have think supernatural, but here we go with the fornicator.
Adulterator.
Call him up. You bastard. What have you been doing?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's the first thing I thought of is like, what's Daddy been doing?
Yeah, they went from creepy to what? All right. I was walking alone in the woods with my son, who was 7 years old. It was eerie quiet. Out of nowhere, he says, "The woods demand a sacrifice." Oh, yeah, I'd want to stay out of those woods. All right. Here's one about a child with night terrors. He was in a panic. I asked, "What is wrong?" And he said, "I'm dead because I got hit by a car. I was walking to the factory with my sister. The car hit me. It was dusty. I was dead on the dusty road. I miss my sister." Now, it doesn't say how old he was or if he really had a sister, or that just ends right there. But yeah, that's kind of creepy if your kid wakes up from a nightmare and says that. All right. In 1991, I worked at a pediatrician's office, screening a 5-year-old for therapy. He lived in the country, no friends. He was homeschooled. Parents had no TV. Right in the middle of screening, he looks at me and says, "Your brother saved my life in Desert Storm." I went cold and pale because my brother was in Iraq. So that's another one of those kid having a psychic premonition, I guess. I don't doubt that at all. All right. I was watching a pre-class while the teacher was out, and this little girl walked up to my belly and pointed and said, "There's a little tiny baby in there. There's a little baby right there." I was pregnant, but I had not told anybody at work at the time. So this little girl knew she was pregnant and shouldn't have known that. All right. As a child, I woke up in the middle of the night to a tall man at my bed rubbing my leg. I was afraid to scream. My parents never believed me, but my older brother fit the description. He died before I was born. I slept in his room, and his old toys would often light up by themselves.
That sounds like your house.
And then let's see the next one. When my daughter was 2, I found her under the table with one of my husband's old children's books, turning pages as if she were being read to. I asked her what she was doing, and she said, "Reading with Grandma." My husband's mother died 2 years before she was born, and it was her book that she was reading. That's good. I like that.
That's a touching story.
Yeah, it's a heartwarming ghost story. Now here's another one. My dad died a day after his birthday. So on his birthday, we were all sitting and we were sad. My 4-year-old niece walks to my mom and says, "Grandpa is here and says, don't cry. His heart is sore too." This little girl had never met him. Mom asked, "How does he look?" And she said, "Like Auntie Maypule."
Like
Yes,
what?
like Auntie Maypule, which is apparently the name of this girl who's writing this. She says, "Yes, I'm a copy of my dad." So apparently that confirmed.
Okay.
And then here's another. Oh yeah, this is short and I would say short and sweet, but short and creepy in this case.
Creepy.
Doesn't say the age, but it says, "My child said suddenly, 'We're all going to die.' I said to him, 'I know, sweetie, that's just part of life.' To which he replied, 'You're going to die tomorrow.'"
Ooh. Ooh.
Here, oh, this is creepy. On several occasions, my son referred to the guy, in quotations, the guy in our old house. He would say, "He's big like Daddy, but it's not Daddy." He'd tell me the guy was standing in the dark hallway. After not talking of it for several months, one day he suddenly looked up at the ceiling and whispered, "The guy is back." Ooh.
He's back.
Don't you want to live in that house? The guy is back.
The guy is back.
Oh, this
You got a bunch of these.
Yeah, there's a slew. We could go on for hours. Here's one. When my niece was 7, she asked us why we were keeping all the dead grandmas in the attic, and then she laughed.
The dead grandmas in the
All the
attic.
dead grandmas in the attic.
I would put my kid up for adoption.
Yeah. Here we go. My aunt, Annie Mae Adams was her name, died when my niece was a month old.
Yeah.
When my niece was about, Well, when my niece was about 3 or 4 years old, she asked to go outside and swing, so I took her. Her other swing was moving by itself, but I thought it was the wind. My niece started talking to it. I asked who she was talking to, and she said, Auntie May Adams.
Jimmy Adams.
Now,
Now
this is a
that's kind
this
of
is
like
an
that. Have you been?
she would.
Have you been to that children's playground at the cemetery up in Huntsville?
I've seen about it, heard all about it. I've never been up there. I need to get up
I
and all these
I did a
days.
video of that, and when
Yeah.
I walked up there was nobody up there, and the swing was swinging. There's a row of swings, but the one on the far left-hand side was started swinging.
Yeah.
I got a video of it.
I got a call in the middle of the night. One time I was in bed and the phone woke me up. This girl I know, she said, guess where we are? It was at midnight. I said, where are you at? She says, we're at the Dead Children's Playground up here near Huntsville. She
Mhm.
said, the swings. She said one of them started swinging and it stopped, and then the next one started swinging. So it was like somebody was moving from one swing to the next there.
Uh,
So that, yeah, I need to get up there and take a look at that.
and it's a neat cemetery next to it as well. Worth if you like old tombstones and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's
Oh, yeah.
I like this. I like the response the girl gives. It says here, I was putting my half brother down for a nap when he suddenly says, I can't sleep with that mean little boy staring at me. And he pointed toward the dark closet in his bedroom. We didn't take a nap. We instead left and went to the beach. I don't blame her for that. All right. Oh, this is creepy. At the store, we were at the store, and then we had a nice day, a picnic at the park. And suddenly my son grabs my hand, squeezes real hard, and says, Mommy, when you die, I'm going to make a little you so I can keep you always, like with your skin, your eyes, but probably not your insides. And then he smiled. Yeah, that's kind of creepy. Oh, this is scary. This 5-year-old says to me, can I marry you? I said, no, sorry, sweetie, I have a boyfriend. To which the 5-year-old replied, what if he died? Ooh.
He has got it figured out already.
That's a little psycho in the making right there.
I'll get what I want.
Now, here's one. Once when my daughter was 4 years old, she was waiting for me at the end of the hallway. When I reached her, I said, come on, kiddo, let's go. And she said, Mommy, I'm not waiting for you. I'm waiting for them. Then she pointed at the empty hallway and smiled. Ooh, I wonder who them was. And what were they coming to take her to? Damn, down the dark hallway. Oh, here's another reincarnation type one. I woke up in the middle of the night in total darkness. I thought someone had called for me, but all was quiet. I didn't notice that my 3-year-old had crept in and was standing directly beside my bed until he whispered in my ear, I used to have a train set when I was a grandpa. Ah, that's creepy.
When I was a grandpa, okay, yeah.
Let's see.
That's kind of a reincarnation, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And a creepy one. All right. My 3-year-old asked, Mama, what happens to us when we die? I sort of panicked because I was not ready, but I started to say, well. And then the 3-year-old said, oh, never mind. I remember. We become new again. And then he walked away smiling. Ooh. All right. The next one. My daughter told me that the place, in quotations, the place she was in before she was born had a bunch of babies waiting to be born, except they aren't babies there. She said they're all 5, and they pick their mom, and then they go in her tummy. Wow, I didn't know that's how it worked. All right. Oh, here's one. I had just bought my kid a white stuffed bunny. His response was, "When I was your dad, I got you one just like this. Then you didn't see me anymore." This scared me because he's named after my dad, who I didn't see for 12 years after he gave me the bunny. We talked when I was 14, and then he died the next year. Wow. All right. Oh, this is creepy. My 3-year-old was alone in the tub, sitting to one side, and he started getting visibly upset at nothing on his left side. "Tell him I don't like that. Tell him to leave me alone," he screamed, pointing at nothing. "He won't leave." I got her out of the tub immediately. I think I would too. All right. And then I came out of the bathroom to find my son waiting for me. He's 4 years old. He said, "The booby traps have been set. Good luck." And then he laughed and walked away.
Well, was there booby traps?
I don't say. Somebody commented and said, "Let's hope he just took your bra and didn't set bombs." Booby traps.
Can you imagine? These little kids, right?
These are the little kids.
The booby trap has been set.
Oh, here's a crazy one. My classroom is a class of 4-year-olds. These are 4-year-olds. Back in summertime, we were on recess outside on a hot day, and the kids were playing like a pretend ice cream shop at the countertop in the play equipment. So one of the kids hands me an invisible ice cone, so I naturally play along. I asked him, "What flavor is this?" He said, "Skin." I said, "What?" Thinking he said something that sounded like that, but maybe it wasn't what he really said. I thought I misheard him, but he doubled down and said, "Skin."
Oh,
See
God.
those kids out? See those kids out there? And then he tells me how he's going to make ice cream out of their skin. Ooh, there's a little Jeffrey Dahmer.
I know. What's his name? If he ever opens a restaurant, I'm not going.
Hannibal Lecter. He's gonna eat the ice cream with some fava beans and a nice Chianti. That was from The Silence of the Lambs.
Oh gosh. No.
All right. When my niece was 5, she touched the cross I was wearing that my late grandma had given me. She said, "Your grandma gave it to you." And I said, "Yes, she did." My niece continued to admire it, and I realized she wasn't asking. I asked everyone if they told her about my grandma giving crosses, and they said no one did. I asked her who told her about my cross, and she said, "I always knew." She was staring at a picture of my mom's dresser. She asked if it was my grandma who gave my cross, if that was the grandma who gave my cross, and I said, yes, it was. She said it looks like a lady she saw visiting her. Grandma had passed away years before my niece was born. So apparently grandma's visiting the little girl. Oh, now this is crazy. My kid told me, "You died in the war with the Star-Spangled Banner, Daddy. The men in red killed you, but then you came back." He's 4 years old, 4. And apparently I was killed by British in the War of 1812. So how would this kid know all this?
So how
And a 4-year-old at that. What's a 4-year-old going to know about the British War of 1812?
But is he talking to his dad?
Yeah, he's talking to his dad.
So
He said,
clearly
"You
the
died."
dad. Did the dad believe that? Did the dad believe that he had a previous life?
They didn't say. It's just, that's all the comment says. But that would creep me out. Oh, here's another creepy one. My mom went upstairs for a nap. My middle son asked her if she was happy she'd be seeing Jesus soon. Oh, God. And that's all she wrote. Now that.
Oh God!
Are you happy you're going to see Jesus soon?
Oh my
Is
goodness!
he calling her old, or is he implying?
I don't know. Oh my goodness! Are you happy, Kevin, that you're going to be seeing Satan soon?
I'm not going to see Satan. I'm going to see him burn in hell while I.
Well, you'd have to be in hell with him to see him burn in hell.
I'll be looking over the edge of heaven, looking down there. Let's see. When I was around 8, I woke up one night to a man. When I was around 8, I woke up one night to a man in my closet. He didn't say anything to me. He just looked at me forlornly and watched me sleep. A few weeks later, my mom told me about her brother who died before I was born. She showed me a picture, and it was the same man from my closet. Oh, that's bad. That's nice and creepy.
Wow.
And then I like this one. When my twins were born, one of them took longer to talk. When she did start to talk, it was fluent Spanish, which we do not speak at home, nor does anyone who had come into contact with her at that time. Yeah, that would drive me wild. Kids start speaking Spanish.
Well, it doesn't say whether the child also talked English and Spanish or just all Spanish.
Just fluent Spanish. I guess that means both. Oh, this is creepy. When I was about 16, I was in a grocery store with my mom, and a tiny child I'd never seen before suddenly lashed himself around my leg. He would not let go. He kept insisting I was his first mommy, and then he stopped when pried off by his actual mom.
I'm concerned about some of these daddies. I don't know.
And that's a 16-year-old. Uh-oh. Let's see. Someone very close to me passed away, and a few weeks ago, my 4-year-old daughter woke me up around 2 a.m. to tell me Darian, the same man who had passed away, was in her room laughing with her, and she couldn't sleep because he was too funny. Comforting, but creepy. That's a good one. Oh, you're going to love this one. I was substituting in a kindergarten class when a little girl walks up and stares at my chest. You have big boobies. My grandma had big boobies. She's dead now, and her boobies are rotting off. Isn't it all what he says? She's dead now, and her boobies are rotting off. Can we go to recess?
Oh my God. I mean, for us to read these, we can laugh, but if that happened to you, I don't think you could laugh.
Oh, that would make me lose my lunch. Talking about some grandma rotting in the grave.
Oh, God. Your boobies are rotting off, Kevin.
Oh, here's a good one. Me and my mom and my niece were out shopping. My mom picked out a dress, and my niece said, "That would look nice if you wore it to a funeral." On our way home from the store, my mom got a phone call that her cousin passed away, and she wore that exact dress to the funeral. Now, that's a creepy premonition right there.
Mm.
Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. We're on a road trip, and my 5-year-old says, "Mommy, can you hold this?" So I hold my hand behind me and continue my conversation with the husband. Then I look down to see a bloody baby tooth and almost jumped out of my skin. Maybe a little warning next time.
Uh,
Can you hold this, Mommy?
uh,
Oh, man. Okay. I noticed my son carefully examining his food. He looked at it carefully, sniffed it, and tasted a tiny bit. I asked if something was wrong, and he responded, "What if it's poison?" He was 3, and he did that ritual every meal for years.
what if it's poison?
3 years old.
He overheard Daddy or somebody.
Here's a good one. I work with 4th graders, and I had one boy chipping the yellow paint off of a pencil. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "I'm scraping this pencil like I want to scrape my teacher's skin."
Oh gosh. Okay, let's take a break from that for a minute. Save your place. We're gonna come back to it, but we're almost going on 8 o'clock here, and I'm Kelsey, and right over here, right there is Kevin, myhauntedDolls.com, and we both got books we need to sell. He's buying a new house, and he's deeply in debt, and his car is about to fall apart, so he needs money. Anyway, Amazon.com, Dating the Dead. It is a compilation of stories that took no imagination here, and I just compiled these stories from just like what he was reading there. This is about people that have strange relationships, marrying ghosts, and that sort of thing. So it's right there. It's even got pictures in it. Amazon.com or Lulu.com. I started publishing mine, Kevin, in 2 different places.
Amazon.com.
Lulu. Ever use Lulu.com?
Oh, I hadn't heard of that one.
LULU. They've been doing it longer than Amazon has. And the thing about Lulu is that if you upload it, you get it done, it's published immediately. There's no waiting time. So that's one good thing about them. Okay. So Amazon makes you wait and put you through a process. Lulu, boy, as soon as you get it up there and get the cover and everything done, it's published and for sale immediately.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's LULU.com store within Lulu as well. Okay.
Okay.
So I've got books. Yeah. And Kevin is going to talk about his 11 books and his YouTube channel and all that.
Okay. Yeah. Just go visit myhauntedDolls.com. And yeah, go visit myhauntedDolls.com, as you see on the screen there. And you can see all of my books out there available. If you want to buy one autographed, I've got them out there reasonably priced. You can also find them on Kindle. And you can find audiobooks now. I've got a couple on audiobooks. We have Crimson the Blood Painting. That's the poster I showed earlier. This is a novel based on a real haunted painting, and that's her. That's the painting on the cover. That came from Salem, Massachusetts, that once belonged to a practicing witch, and it now hangs inside my house. And every time I do a spirit box session next to it, I get a man's voice saying, "Crimson, Crimson." So
Crimson.
No, it's not the Crimson Tide either. So check that
Crimson
out.
War Eagle.
War Tide and Roll Eagle.
MyHauntedDolls.com. I want to interrupt you for a second because I don't have any audio books, but some of my books are also in Kindle form as well.
Yeah, Kindle.
So mine cover different subjects. His is mostly on this same subject. He's got He's got a wide array of books, and all of them are worth pursuing. We try to do this every Tuesday night. With everything that's going on, last week Kevin wasn't feeling too well, so we did it on Friday night. Based on Kevin's schedule and whatnot, I always try to put the word out a little bit ahead of time, send people emails and whatnot, let you know that this is going to take place. But normally this is every Tuesday night. We were doing this at a location, and because of coronavirus, we're doing it this way, safe. I don't know where Kevin's been. He might be infected. I don't know. Bottom line is this is just a very convenient way to do it. And neither one of us have to travel anywhere. Let's use the technology that we've got.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Abnormal Alabama. This is also now, as of tonight, the first time I've streamed it also on my website.
Oh.
And, so you can go to abnormalalabama.com and be watching this as well. Let's see if yep, it's right there. Just went to it just to make sure. When you go to the website, you do have to hit the play button. So I don't know if Kevin can do that on his website or if he wants to, but I think you're sharing it on social media as we go along.
Yeah, Facebook and all that.
Yeah.
I do have a YouTube channel with all my ghost video, my haunted items and the EVPs and spirit box responses out there. You can go to myhauntedDolls.com and it's on the links page, or you just go to YouTube, put in My Haunted Dolls, Kevin Cain, CAIN, and you can find it there. And there's some of the videos are story videos about the items, and some of them are actual EVPs and spirit box sessions that I've done out there where I've captured some interesting things.
And I think last year he learned the difference between spirit box and EVP.
It's all electronic voice. One's got static, one doesn't. It's all phenomenon. Phenomenon.
Yeah. So we do. Usually this is every Tuesday night, 7 o'clock. We roll pretty good. Last week we hit a little hiccup because of Kevin losing his voice. He was singing too much or something. I don't know what it was.
I just had coughing fits and.
Yeah, but we do it, and we have a lot of different interesting subjects. Now you notice these. I'm gonna blank you off for a second there, but you see these two girls behind me. There's a thing called dark-eyed or black-eyed children, and that's what those represent right there. You'll see that their eyes are like nothing; they're just black. And so there's a lot of stories. So don't go away if you want to hear some more of what these crazy kids say, these creepy things, because we're going to get back to that as well. But I want to talk about these black-eyed kids for a second. And it all began, the legend, from what I understand, began in Abilene, Texas. And the story goes something like this, that every Halloween, Texans get ready for trick-or-treaters by stocking up on candy, setting out pumpkins, just like they do everywhere else, touching up the Halloween decorations. But if you've heard the stories of one terrifying folk phenomenon, there's Kevin's word. You might be wary of trick-or-treaters known as the black-eyed kids. There's dozens of stories circulating, each of them separate instances and not just occurring on Halloween, but all of them follow a very similar pattern. Kids with completely blacked out eyes arrive at someone's home or vehicle, knock on the door, and then insist upon being let inside. Anyone who encounters them almost immediately begins to feel an overwhelming sense of dread. Besides blackout eyes, these children, usually between the ages of 6 and 16, typically appear otherwise normal. Sometimes their clothing is outdated. In extremely unusual instances, people have reported talon-like feet. Overall, though, they look just like normal kids. In a way, that's what is the most scariest part of them. While it may not be the earliest sighting of all time, the earliest reported sighting was in 1996 by Brian Bethel, a journalist from Abilene, Texas. In Bethel's report, he describes a late evening out in his vehicle. He had stopped in a parking lot near a movie theater to write a check. He was so absorbed in this that he didn't notice two young boys approach his car. He didn't notice until the older boy tapped the driver's side window. Bethel rolled down his window and noted immediately a soul-wrecking fear, though he couldn't understand why. The older boy said that he and his brother wanted to catch a movie, but had forgotten their money at home. Could Bethel give them a ride? They assured him that it wouldn't take long. They were just two kids and that they didn't have a gun. Bethel found the assurances unnerving and noted that the last showing of the film they wanted to see had already started and would be nearly over by the time he could drive them anywhere and get back. In his recount of the incident, he stated that when he broke eye contact with them, his fear became all-encompassing. And it wasn't until he broke eye contact that their eyes became completely blacked out. The older boy began to get frustrated when Bethel made excuses for not giving them a ride and said that they couldn't get into the car unless Bethel said it was okay. After that, Bethel tore out of the parking lot. To this day, he still stands by this story. That's kind of the introduction to the dark-eyed or black-eyed kids. And since that was first reported, there are a lot of other stories. A midnight caller. It almost felt like a dream. I woke up to my dog Lucy barking. She was upright on the bed where my husband and I were sleeping with our 22-month-old daughter staring at our door like an unknown stranger was out there rummaging around. I thought she was just freaking out over a house noise. We'd only had her for 3 months and she was just a puppy. It could have been anything. Our roommate, a creak from the house settling, the awnings moving outside in the breeze. I wasn't too concerned initially. I decided the best bet would be to open the door and show her nothing was there. Sounds a bit silly, but it's what we do with our daughter when she gets scared, and I figured it should work with our puppy too. I opened the door. She raced to the front door. She stood there snarling at the door. It was an angry, violent growl, one I'd never heard her make before. I looked groggily at her and opened the baby gate blocking the doorway, planning to open the door and show her everything was okay. The second my hand reached for the deadbolt, Lucy went wild. She started barking and jumped toward me, and when I touched the metal, she suddenly changed her temper. She whimpered, almost like she was afraid and backing down. As her mannerism changed, so did mine. I wasn't calm anymore. My heart was racing and sinking at the same time. I had been flooded with a mixture of fear and dread. I looked through the peephole. I can't explain why I looked, but I did. Outside were two kids. One was just a smidgen shorter than me, and didn't look much younger. I'm 21. She looked to be 16 or 17. She was slender and pale. Her hair was a light shade of honey blonde, and she wore it long, about mid-back, with long, thin, blunt bangs in the front that covered most of her eyes. She wore jeans, a light wash that's popular right now, and a thin-looking olive-colored pullover-style hoodie. She held the hand of a small girl who looked to be around 3 or 4, in the same style jeans and button-down ivory cardigan. The smaller one looked at the floor shyly, but had the same shade of hair tied back in a ponytail. She held a stuffed toy under her free arm, and it was identical to one my daughter has, as was their style of dress. Had it not been for the feeling of overwhelming dread and fear, I probably would have asked these children in and given them some tea or hot chocolate to get them out of the bitter cold. Something about them seemed off. At this point, I hadn't made any noise. I hadn't shushed the dog or grumbled nothing. I hadn't turned on any lights. These kids had no indicators I was at the door. The older one spoke. She had a voice that was mature, confident, strong, accentless. She held her head tilted downward, and I couldn't see her eyes. She said, "We have to use your phone." I stood frozen in fear. How did she know I was there? She raised her head to face me directly, and that was when I saw her eyes. There was a reason I couldn't see them through her bangs before. They were black, or midnight blue, or a dark, dark purple. They were otherworldly. She said, "Our mother is worried." As someone who has always been interested in creepy stories, I knew what she was the second she looked at me through the door. I have never been one to believe in these things as a staunch atheist and a skeptic when it comes to the paranormal. I'd written off many a ghost stories from friends and family members eager to tell their tale. I didn't believe it. Still, I couldn't rationalize my way out of this. I was standing with nothing but a thin wooden door between me and a black-eyed kid. There was no questioning what was right in front of me. I did not answer her. Slowly and silently, I backed away from the door, Lucy still cowering at my ankles. She kept talking. "Just let us in to use your phone." I took another step back, and with that step, the tone changed. At first, she seemed polite, but when I took that second step back, she became commanding, almost hostile. "We're not going to hurt you. If we wanted to do that, we would have broken in. I'll ask again. May we come in and use your phone?" Lucy snarled at the door, and I inched backward, though something inside me seemed to be slowly pulling me back toward the door. It wasn't a physical pulling so much as a subconscious need to go back and let them in. I got to my room, covered up the window, locked the door, and sat there in the dim light of the moonlight, or nightlight. I heard her call me back to the door once more, and then quiet. I didn't go back to sleep that night, and I haven't slept right since. I know from reading about them that BEKs, black-eyed kids, can't just come in without permission. I know they haven't hurt anyone, but I still fear I'll be the exception. When I told my husband, he said it was just a dream. He keeps telling me to forget it, but this lingering feeling of sadness, the dread when the house is silent at night, this fear of a knock at the door, this tells me otherwise. So be careful of who comes knocking at your door in the middle of the night. Okay, Kevin, you're going to have to step up with some of those creepy kid. We'll go back and forth here. So that was an introduction to the black-eyed kids. You've heard any of these stories before?
I've heard some stories about black-eyed kids. Most people talk to the ones I always hear people driving down the road. Sometimes it's in Texas or anywhere else in the world. They say they see kids all of a sudden step up on the side of the road, and when they pass by, the kids' eyes are completely black. And when they swerve and stop and they look back, the kids are gone. And there's all kinds of explanations as to what they are. That some people think it's ghosts or otherworldly beings. Some think it's something demonic in the form of children. There's even a legend out there somewhere that these are children who escaped from a lab where they were being experimented on. And that's why their eyes are black and they're so strange. They're mutations. So all kinds of explanations and legends out there. I've never, in all my investigating, I never come across a black-eyed child, so I can't say yay or nay if they're real or not.
There's a picture. They
Yeah,
gotta be real.
Yeah, I mean, that couldn't be a lie, could it? That's got to be real.
Yeah. Now, what would you do? Are you gonna be okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Can you imagine? You're in the middle of the night. You get a
Yeah.
ring your doorbell, and it's not Halloween.
Yeah, and you find something like that outside the door, I'd probably slam it shut and lock it. Say some prayers.
What would your cat be doing? You don't have a dog, but what would your cat be doing?
She probably hiss and run, hide under the bed in the bedroom.
I hear you. Okay.
I'd probably throw some holy water on them. That's what I'd do.
There you go.
I did watch a movie just last night. I watched a movie. There's one, if you want to see a good a good creepy movie telling about black-eyed children, there's a fictional movie out there on Hulu. If you have Hulu on your TV or computer.
What's it called?
The movie is called They Come Knocking.
Oh, okay. Well, that fits the story I just read.
And it's on Hulu. And the story, I don't give any, give away the ending or anything, but the story revolves around this father and his two young daughters. One's a teenager, and the other one is probably about 10 or 11. And their mother has passed away from cancer, and they have her ashes in an urn. And the father has decided to help them cope and to also find a proper place to put the ashes. He's going to drive the kids out with the camper in tow out to the place where he and his wife went on a camping trip, and it's the spot where he proposed to her while on a camping trip. So they go out there with their camper in tow, and they get close to the spot. They stop at a diner to have dinner. The teenage girl happens to look out the window, and near their camper, she sees a little girl wearing a hoodie standing out there staring straight at them. And the girl smiles, and her eyes are completely black. Well, before the teenager can say anything, a truck passes by the window, and when it gets out of the way, the little girl is gone. There's nobody out there, but she tells her father about it. That night, they're out there in the wilderness with the camper parked and set up, and they're going to bed. They've gone to bed, actually, and are sound asleep when there's a bang on the camper door. So the teenager wakes up first, and she goes to the door and looks out, and there's several of these children, boys and girls, all of them with white hair and pale faces with hoodies on, and their eyes are completely black, and they're smiling, looking at her in the window. And she slings the curtains closed, and her dad and sister have woken up, and they're coming out. What's going on? He tells her what she saw, and he looks out she tells him what she saw. He looks out the window, and there's nothing there. So he tells her, look, you're probably you had a nightmare. Then all of a sudden, the bang on the door again. He looks out the window, and there's all the children out there again with their black eyes staring and smiling. And the little girl closest to the window, the black-eyed girl, says, please let us in. And he says, who are you? We want to come in. He says, where did you come from? What do you want? We want to come in. He says, it ain't going to happen, sweetheart. And he thinks it's some kind of prank. He says, it ain't going to happen. She says, then we'll make you come out. And they all start giggling in unison. So the rest of the night is this terror-filled evening of this father and these girls trying to get away from these black-eyed children who are trying to lure them out of the camper and I guess take their souls. And they're using the children are using every supernatural trick in the book to lure them out. So check that movie. I don't want to give the plot away or the ending or anything, what happens, but that's a really good. I never watched a black-eyed children movie before. I don't know if there's any others out there, but that was a pretty good one. It's fairly new. It's on Hulu, and it's called They Come Knocking. I don't know if it's available. I think it's a Hulu exclusive, so you have to go out there and watch it. And I recommend it. I thought it was pretty creepy.
There you go. And let me tell you what, Kevin is a true connoisseur of movies, especially haunted movies, the scary movies. He knows them. And he not only knows these movies, He's probably got every actor and actress's signature, autograph, picture, and then I mean, he's he's into it big time. He ain't playing. He
Yeah,
ain't playing. Let me share one more story. Huh?
I just started saying, yeah, I've got
Hello?
a lot of autographs out there.
Yeah. Okay, let me share one more story, and then I want you to please share with us some more of those creepy things kids say, if you got some more.
Yeah, there's more.
Are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let me give this one more. This was a bus encounter, and then we're going to go back to Kevin sharing a few more of the creepy things that kids say. So I was riding the bus back home from at work. It was about 1 a.m. I'm a security guard and often work odd hours. So this guy gets on, sits across from me. He was wearing a suit, had a looking guy in his 20s. What struck me about him at first was that he was chewing a cigar, not smoking it. You can't smoke on the bus. So I was just looking at him while he stared out the window and chewed his cigar, and all of a sudden he turned and looked at me. His eyes were pitch black. My heart started beating like a mad mother, and I felt my gorge rising. I was starting to panic, and I had no idea why. I was just pants shittingly terrified of this guy. Then he grinned at me, and his teeth were all covered in tobacco bits and brown juice, the cigar clamped between them. I almost screamed, but instead I had the presence of mind to just get up, take the seat right next to the bus driver or behind him, calm down a bit, but I kept an eye on that guy. He ended up chatting with some girl that got on, and they were still talking when I got off. I later convinced myself he was just trolling me, having fun with a pair of contacts. Now I wonder. 10 facts about black-eyed kids. Black-eyed kids look normal. They look like normal kids between 6 and 16, pale skin, but totally black eyes. People that have been in close proximity to black-eyed kids report a feeling of unease that washed over them. While not the children's appearance, aside from the eyes, genuinely frightened the people, they still reported feelings ranging from anxiety to terror at their presence. Some people have also reported seeing black-eyed kids that have talons for feet or other demonic attributes, but most sightings are of seemingly normal children. Black-eyed kids are so commonly described as wearing dated clothing or dressing in a manner that is not typical of a normal child of their age. Black-eyed kids always ask for something. It's always something that involves being in closed quarters with you. They'll ask for a ride in your vehicle or to enter your home to use the phone. There's no reported stories of what happens when you let a black-eyed kid into the vehicle or home. All the stories come from people whose eerie feelings made them flee from the children. The earliest sighting of the black-eyed kid, and I shared this, was from that Brian Bethel in 1996. The story has been added to internet creepypasta lore, but to this day, Bethel insists that the incident was real and happened just the way he reported it. In 2014, a British paper reported that sightings of black-eyed kids around the world were rising. Theories about black-eyed kids are that they are vampires, aliens, or of a demonic origin. So there's a little bit about the black-eyed kids. I think Kevin's got some more creepy things that kids say.
Yeah. Here's an interesting one because this was at a historic place here in Europe. Well, over in Europe, it says, when my family was still living in Europe before I was born, they were driving home from the Anne Frank house. And everyone in the car is asleep except my dad, who was driving me and my sister, who was about 4 at the time. Out of nowhere, my sister asked my dad, "Does God talk to you?" And he said, "Sometimes, I guess. Does he talk to you?" And she replied, "No, but the dead people do." And this is right after we left the Anne Frank house. So we all know what happened with Anne Frank. That was back during World War II. She and her family were hiding and until the Germans found them and pulled them out and took them to concentration camps.
Right.
So the little girl maybe saw their ghosts hanging around in the house there. There have been stories. In fact, there's a picture out there somebody took outside the Anne Frank house, and in the window up in that, I guess near the attic area where they were hiding in that building, they got what looks like the apparition of a dark-haired girl peering out the window, and they think that might be Anne Frank's ghost. So that's pretty interesting. All right. My kids had two imaginary friends. They called them the old ladies.
The what?
The old ladies.
Okay.
That may not seem creepy, but both my kids saw them and played with them. One day I asked who the old ladies were because they had been playing with them. And they both told me the old ladies are dead. Nope.
Okay.
And
It's always good to have dead friends.
yeah.
And don't forget, if you want to know more about relationships with dead people, I've got the book, Dating the Dead. And for you people that are having a hard time finding a mate, somebody to spend your life with, a partner in life, maybe you need a partner in death. These are real stories in my book, Dating the Dead, found on Amazon.com or Lulu. I need to send some books. I will personally autograph. Tell me what you'd like me to write in the cover here. Right above my name.
And for more stories about scary old ladies, read
There you go.
Crips of the Blood Painting.
And if you buy a book from each, if you buy my book and his book, we will talk about you and send you peace and love on our next show.
Oh, there you go.
Now, what more could you want but from us two, peace and love? I mean, what else could a person want in life, right?
Oh, I don't know.
Probably a lot, but let's not talk about it.
All right.
Okay, we got some more creepy things.
Yeah. One time we were outside a night clinic because my mom took my brother, my little brother, stepdad, and stepbrother, and I stayed in the car. My little brother randomly says, "Who is that lady with no eyes?" We all stared at each other because around the parking lot there was literally no one around us. And I wonder who or what he saw. All right. Let's see. Oh, this is kind of funny. My daughter gave me a late birthday card, but she didn't know how to spell the word belated. Instead, she put on the card, "Happy last birthday to the best dad ever." That's pretty good.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. You got a funny one?
Well, this one's more scary. Let's see. When my god sister was a baby, she had this fear of a scary old lady who kept following her around. She'd always point to her in the air and in the window in my grandma's house. The real kicker is a lot of the babies in my family see that same lady in the window. Who that lady is.
All right, while you're digging up another one, I'm going to do a Halloween one real quick.
Okay.
Black Eyed Kids. This is funny. I've never heard of the Black Eyed Kids before my incident. So I come here to post this story. And the first story I see is about Black Eyed Kids. Weird. All right. So what do we got here? We're going to preface this by saying I am by no means a writer. Well, I am, but the person that wrote this is not a writer. Just a domestic engineer living in North Texas. Also, I don't believe in the paranormal, ghosts, demons, aliens, whatever. However, I did have an event happen to me this Halloween. I have to admit, had me scratching my head. So this was posted on Reddit, by the way. So let's see. It had been a slow trick or treat night in our neighborhood that evening, which is pretty odd in itself. We usually have kids from different areas dropped off in ours and have a constant parade at the door. That night, I'd say we had no more than 8 or 10 groups of kids come by the entire night. It was about 9:30 p.m. My husband and I were sitting in our family room watching some of the ghost shows based on supposedly actual events. Like I said, I don't believe in that stuff, but I do like a good ghost story now and then. And it was Halloween and all. We hadn't had any activity at the door in over half an hour, and it was getting late, so we decided to turn the porch light off and let our dog Chloe out of her crate. Chloe is an American bulldog and is very docile. We only put her in the crate because we were afraid she'd try and get out to play with all the kids, and I didn't want to have to chase after her down the street. Also, we didn't want to scare any of the kids because she would look a little intimidating to the younger kids. So I turned out the outside light off, let Chloe out, and she followed me back to the couch and lay down at my feet. It was getting close to 10 p.m., but my husband decided he had had enough fun for the night and was going to go upstairs, take a shower, get ready for bed. After all, it was Thursday, and he still had to get up early the next day. My teenage son was out with his friends at a local haunted house and was expected back within an hour or so. So that left me alone on the couch with Chloe. Now, just because I don't believe doesn't mean those shows don't freak me out a little bit. And being alone now watching, I'd have to say was kind of on edge, as it were. It wasn't long after I heard the upstairs water for the shower turn on when there came a light knock, knock, knock at the front door. My initial reaction was, what the hell, really? It's almost 10. Go home. But soon an uneasy feeling came over me. Why the knock? Our doorbell glows, and in the dark and without the porch light, it would be extra obvious to anyone there. I paused. I couldn't really just ignore it. Our front door has a big beveled glass panel, and anybody right at the door could see in enough to see someone was in the family room watching TV. It'd be pretty rude for me to just sit there and not answer it. Knock, knock, knock again from the door. I glanced down at Chloe, and she was gone. My gaze followed her usual path to the front door, expecting her to be on her way there as she normally does. Nothing. She wasn't there. I stood up to look around the room better and found her crouching by the back door like she was wanting out. However, she never asked to go out like that. She always comes and licks my hand and puts her head on my knee. This was totally out of character for her, and I had to say, heightened my anxiety. Chloe, crate, I said. She turned back to look at me like, hell no, lady, ain't moving. I yelled up to my husband. If he was already in the shower, I knew there'd be no chance of him hearing me. Knock, knock, knock. About that time, a car drove down our street and cast just enough light on the door to where I could see the silhouettes of two small children through the glass. I instantly felt relief. It was just some kids, probably a couple of my neighbors on their way back home that wanted to stop by and show me their costume or something. I headed to the door and looked back to make sure that Chloe wasn't going to follow. What a great watchdog, I thought to myself as she just sat there. I turned on the porch light when I got to the door, and sure enough, I could see through the glass that it was a couple of pretty small kids. A little late for such young ones, I thought, and I began to wonder about what kind of parents would let their kids run the streets that late at night. I only opened the door just enough to where I could block Chloe's escape if she decided to grow some balls, which was only about 2 feet. What struck me immediately as odd was the kids weren't wearing any costumes. They were in normal street clothes. Also, no customary trick or treat either. I began to feel very uneasy again. It was a boy and a girl. The girl to my left was older, I'd say, about 11 or 12. I could tell she was blonde, but I couldn't make out any distinct features as our lights are from high above and on columns at the front of the porch, so most of the light was coming from behind them. I'd not opened the door wide enough for any light from the inside to hit him directly. The boy was younger and about a foot shorter, I'd say 8 or 9, and looked to have a light brown hair. The girl very politely spoke up. "Ma'am, can we please come inside and use your phone to call our mom?" As she spoke, something in the pit of my stomach was telling me something was wrong. What kid, even at that age, doesn't have a cell phone on their body these days? I couldn't remember the last time I'd had anybody ask to use my home phone. Hon, don't you have a phone of your own you can call your mom on? I asked. This was things really got weird now. Both kids turned to look at one another like they were going to say something to one another, but neither spoke. They both turned back to me, and the girl said, "Ma'am, my cell phone battery doesn't have any charge left in it. Can we please come inside and call our mother? We're alone out here, and my brother is scared." I have to admit there were two competing feelings going on inside of me. The first, that of a mother's heart that wanted to help these two small children get into their mom. The other, a sinking fear in my gut that was keeping the other feeling at bay. It was then I noticed that during the short conversation, I'd already opened the door a few extra inches, which I was completely unaware of doing. I stopped. "Honey, why don't you give me your mother's number and I can call her myself?" Another pause. They again looked at one another. After a short moment, they turned back to me and the girl said, "Ma'am, my little brother has to use your bathroom. Can we please come inside while you call our mom?" And with that last statement, the little girl moved closer toward the door like she was going to just walk on in by me. As she did, she stepped into the light coming from inside the house, and I got my first real good look at her. Solid, jet black eyes. That's all I could see. That motherly instinct was gone, replaced by terror I don't think I've ever felt in my life. I could feel every hair on my arms and back of my neck standing at attention. I closed the door to where just my face was able to stick out. The little girl stopped and again pleaded, "Please, ma'am, we're really scared and alone out here. We have to come inside. Please help us." Then, like on cue, both kids began to whimper and cry. That's when the fear took over and I shut and locked the door. "I'll call your mom if you give me the number," I shouted through the door, "but I'm not letting you in my house." I could still see them standing there on the porch, just staring at me through the beveled glass pane. Part of me wanted to run upstairs to my husband, but the bigger part didn't want me to lose track of where they were. They would have freaked me out even more to not know where they were. After what seemed like forever, but probably only a few seconds, I decided to call my neighbor that lives across the street. As I made my way to the side table by our couch to my phone, I glanced at the back door. Chloe was nowhere to be found. We later found her in the guest room under the bed. When I got to my phone and started to look for his contact info, it was only then the kids stepped away from the door and began to walk to the street. As they did, I walked to the door to get a better look to see where they went. Still not calling my neighbor. If you get close enough to the glass, you can see enough to make out people's shapes, but you can't see much detail. Of course, standing that close to the door would make you pretty obvious to anyone outside looking in. From the door, I could see that the kids were still standing under the street lamp nearest my house, staring at me. As I lifted the phone to my ear after calling, only then did the kids start walking down our street. I met my neighbor out under the lamp once he was out there, but the kids were nowhere to be seen. Like I said, I don't believe in any of this stuff and have never even heard about black-eyed kids before talking to my friend. What I really think what I have to think is these kids were just yanking people's chains on Halloween night. But I will say this for them: they were good, really good at it. They scared the shit out of me and my dog. Okay, Kevin, your turn. What can creepy kids say?
Okay. All right. Okay. My aunt was very sick, and my wife and I were talking about the cost of making arrangements for the funeral. Our 4-year-old son walked in and said, "Why don't you just set her on fire?" As it turned out, that's how he thought cremation worked. That's a lot of knowledge for a 4-year-old to have there. All right. Let's see. This is a creepy one. I asked my 3 kids what they wanted to do when they grew up. My 10-year-old said, "I want to be a teacher." My 8-year-old said, "I want to be a writer." But then my 6-year-old said, "I want to run the machine that cuts the heads off of chickens." Oh.
Oh gosh. Lovely kids.
That's an interesting
I tell you what, if I was a parent or a grandparent or somebody that had little kids, I don't know how well I'd sleep tonight.
Well, I mean, on a brighter note, how else are we going to get that delicious Kentucky Fried Chicken if somebody's not cutting the heads?
That's it.
It's a nasty job, but it's got to be done.
What about the other one that's going to skin the mother or whomever?
Yeah, one wanted to skin the teacher. There's another one. One of them wanted to make skin flavored ice cream.
Oh gosh. Okay. called Jerry and Ben's or whatever.
Yeah, here's a good bloody one here. I was giving my 6-year-old daughter a bath, and she had a couple of Barbies in the tub with her. One of the Barbies had no head. The head was floating in the water. I asked her to reattach the head because it looked creepy. She responded in all seriousness, "Why, Mommy? It's not real. If it was real, the bath would be full of blood, and that would be creepy."
Oh God. Yeah, that would be a little bit creepy, I think.
At least they're plastic and not bleeding. Here's your flesh one. I asked my nephew what he was drawing, and he replied, "A skeleton making machine." On further inspection of the picture he was drawing, I saw that he hadn't drawn a skeleton making machine, but rather a flesh removal machine complete with screaming naked men and a channel for the blood.
Oh God.
Woo! That's quite the artiste there.
Oh boy.
I wish they posted a picture of that.
You got some new book material. You just take any of those creepy things and take an entire book on that subject.
Yeah. Now this one is kind of a dark one here. It says,
Kind of, and the other ones haven't been dark.
"Oh yeah, well yeah." Late one night, I was sitting at my friend's kitchen table when her daughter walked in the kitchen and said, "Mommy, when I was older, I crashed the car and died. Can I have something to drink?" My friend calmly gave her daughter a glass of milk and sent her off to bed. It gave me the chills, but my friend didn't want to talk about it. She started crying and told me never to bring it up again. Wow.
Oh gosh.
Oh, this one I read last night. This is a creepy one. Well, they've all been creepy, haven't they? When I was 6 years old, we moved into a new house. I told my mother, "Mommy, the lady who used to live here told me that she hates the wallpaper and you are covering up her note." Well, the mom just thought it was childish rambling and forgot all about it. 12 years later, my mother was redecorating the house. She took down the wallpaper in the attic and found a suicide note scratched into the wall. Now that'll give you some willies right there. That's giving me the cool chills on my skin, right?
Does any of these stories have anything to do with why you're wanting to move?
No, there's no suicide notes here.
Are you sure? What's that moving behind you there?
Nothing moving back there, yeah.
I haven't seen your cat tonight.
No, she stayed away.
Last Friday, she was all up in the camera, wagging her tail in the camera.
Yeah. I guess all this creepy kid business scared her away.
It knows when to run.
Let's see. Oh, this is creepy. Well, again, they've all been. This is some poor father who posted this. He says, I was just minding my own business working in the garage when the door creaked open and my 2-year-old son popped his head in and asked, "Daddy, are you dead yet?" I replied, "No." And then he just slowly closed the door and left.
Daddy, are you dead?
That made a...
Oh, Daddy, are you dead yet? Okay, let me do
cave.
Let me do a black-eyed kid story real quick.
Okay.
This one is entitled "You Must Let Me In." Going back to March the 17th of 2008, which is, gosh, we just had that anniversary date. I had my one and only encounter with a black-eyed kid, March 17, 2008. Before my experience, I'd never even heard of anything having to do with black-eyed kids. I was all of 12 years old. I was sitting outside of a hairdresser's in an old Chevy pickup waiting for my mom to get her hair cut. About 15 minutes had passed and I saw some kid walking back and forth along the sidewalk in front of my parked car. At first, I thought I recognized him as one of my friends from school, so I banged on the front windshield until he looked my way. It was not anyone I knew. At this point, I was not scared at all, not yet. The boy walked over to the side of my car and just stared. I think to let me get a good look at his eyes, to freak me out. Let me tell you, if you have never seen a black-eyed kid, you have no idea what to imagine. Pupils, black as the night sky. The boy whispers, "You must let me in." Then I locked the car doors and ducked down in the space below the seats. 5 minutes later, he was gone. When my mother got back into the car, she told me a boy with black eyes had come into the hairdresser and had insisted for my mother to give him the keys to the car. She refused, thank God. Okay, that was a nice mother, right? Remember, those guys there are out to get you. And just for old time's sake, who do we have here, Kevin?
That's one of the last one of the last dolls I got before I stopped collecting this year. Or was that what that was? Not yet. Yeah, that was after Christmas. It was in January when I got her.
What's that one's name?
Well, it's got 2 spirits with it. Let me look here. That came from Cherie. I know there's 2 little girls with it. And I believe I got that before. Well, me and Cherie talk a lot, so this is going to take a second to get back to where that message was. Let's see here. All right. It wasn't that long ago when I got that. I guess that was before we went to visit Cherie. Let's see.
So, for anybody that's not familiar with Kevin,
That's
He's
scary.
got he's got a good 300 of these dolls, and he does EVP Spirit Box work with them. They talk to him. We had a couple of them actually move during one of these shows that we did right in the middle of the show, and you can find that on YouTube. Um, but myhauntedolls.com is his website, and he also has a YouTube channel, just like what we're streaming this on as well. And it's, of course, Kevin Kane, My Haunted Dolls. You can find him. He's everywhere. He's even been in Playboy magazine. No, he was not the centerfold. Don't you think you're going to go there and find a nude Kevin? He was not showing his breast, anything like that.
Hey,
But it
no.
had to do with his haunted dolls. He's been featured in a lot of different articles, AL.com, and he's been all over the map.
Yeah.
I threw this picture at him. I guess he didn't even realize I had this picture in here.
Yeah.
Now I've got him to go back and try to find some information on this doll.
I got it here. There's two little girls that spirit that doll. One of them's named Mandy, and the other is named Sally. And they're close to age. One's 5, one's 6. I don't remember which one's which, but one's 5 and one's 6. And I know I did. There's a spirit box session with that doll out on my YouTube channel, My Haunted Dolls Kevin Kane, where I did get a voice coming through the spirit box from that doll. I want to say it was Sally that was the one who came through.
Now that doll looks to be very old doll, the way the hair and different things. It looks like it's also got those moving eyelids.
Yeah, that's an old composition doll from the early 1900s.
Yeah.
It's got a cloth body, and the head is made of this kind of a paper, cardboard kind of material they used to use back then. Probably 1930s, around in that time.
So it does make me feel kind of good to know that there are things on this planet that's older than I am. All right, you got any more scary kid stuff?
Yeah, I got a couple of good creepy things kids say lined up here. Here's a good one from a babysitter. I was babysitting one time, and the house had a wine cellar. I asked a little boy I was babysitting, "What's in there?" And he said, "Oh, that's where we keep the dead bodies." Well, I think that would bring my babysitting career to an end right there. Let's see. Oh, here's another one. I asked a toddler what she wanted to be when she got bigger, and she said, "I want to be taken by the water."
Dude, wait a minute. You want to be taken by the what?
I want to be taken by the water.
I'm lost.
Ooh. Yeah.
Okay.
It's creepy.
All right.
She wants to drown. I don't know. Or maybe something in the water. Ooh. So for a little toddler to say that, that's kind of
that's freaky.
Yeah. All right, here we go. My 4-year-old son and my son was 4 and his sister was almost 2. I had to go to a meeting and I couldn't read them a bedtime story. I promised I would read them 2 stories the following night to make up for it. My son suddenly said, "It's okay, Mom. Auntie Tracy will read to us." I felt the hairs go up on the back of my neck. "Who?" I asked. "Auntie Tracy," he said. "She looks just like you. After we go to bed, she reads and sings to us." I had never told them that I was an identical twin and my sister died at birth. Her name was Tracy. Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh, what do you got to say to that?
Oh, gosh.
Let's see. There's another one down here. Okay, there was a 7-year-old I babysat who liked to call herself Supergirl. One day she told me she had a drawing for me. When she gave it to me, the drawing was of a cemetery, and there was a tombstone that said R.I.P. Supergirl. She just chuckled and skipped away. Well, that's Let's see. And then I got some other ones here. If you want a couple of more here, there's whoop. Oh, this is good. While changing my daughter in front of the open closet door, she kept looking around me and laughing. I asked her what was so funny, and she said, "That man." To which I replied, "What man?" She then pointed at the closet and said, "The man with the snake neck."
The snake neck?
Snake neck. I turned around and nothing was there. I'm afraid to look into the history of my house to see if anyone hung themselves in the closet. But at least she wasn't scared.
Okay. Snake
Let's
neck.
see.
Okay.
My 3-year-old daughter stood next to her newborn brother and looked at him for a while, then turned and looked at me and said, "Daddy, it's a monster. We should bury it."
Okay.
Oh,
Oh, boy.
let her near the baby boy.
And
Here's a ghostly one. Okay, I asked my child, "Why are you crying?" She said, "Bad man." "What bad man?" I asked. "There," and she pointed behind me at a dark corner of the room. The lamp on the bookshelf next to us suddenly darkened and fell off as soon as I turned to look at the corner. That night we slept together in my bed. That is pretty creepy. Turn to look at the shadow man, and then the lamp goes out and falls off. Okay. And let's see what's next here. There's a bunch of them. Tell you we could be here all night.
well, we've only got about 4 more minutes.
Yeah.
So,
Let's see.
unless you want to stay up all night, we can go as long as we want.
I don't want to stay up all night. Let's see. Let's see. I don't have kids, but one time I was visiting some friends on a farm. My friend's youngest girl was about 5 or 6 at the time and was afraid of chickens. I tried to explain to her that the chickens weren't there to hurt us, but she wasn't going to have any of that. So I'm sitting around the fire pit looking at one of the chickens a few feet in front of me when I feel hot breath in my ear as the little girl suddenly appeared and said, "See, he's always watching."
Oh, yes. We're going to spend the last couple of minutes. I hope y'all enjoyed these stories that we've been going with. The Creepy Kids Night here on the last day of March. Tomorrow's April Fool's, so don't believe anything you hear. But I want to show you, I'm going to put up on screen something interesting here, Kevin. Okay. Going back to the 80s, you're a movie buff, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I want you to look at the title of these 2 movies here on the marquee. You ready?
Okay. Oh, those are two of my favorites, I know.
Yeah, but just think about coronavirus, Escape from New York, and Little China.
Big Trouble in Little China.
All right. Now, Kevin and I write books, and this one is mine. It can be found on Amazon.com. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to go through my books first, and then I'm going to show them my favorite of your books.
Okay.
Now, some people talk about prepping. You know what a prepper is, Kevin?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I don't call myself a prepper. When I was a kid, the way my grandmother was, it was just a way of life. You just, raise chickens and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I had written this book before coronavirus came out called Practical Preparedness. Instead of these doomsday preppers, just certain basic things. You lived in Alabama all your life. You know it's tornado's going to come. It's not a question of if it's going to come. You know it's going to come. So you kind of just be aware of those things. So there's another one of my books on Amazon. And then this one here, everybody in Alabama likes guns, right, Kevin? Practical Self-Defense. And this is not a book promoting guns, but there's so many ways, in a practical way, non-lethal. Right now, it's getting kind of scary. I don't know if you heard it or not, Kevin, but there was an 80-something-year-old lady that some young guy killed the lady because she was not practicing social distancing. You know what I'm talking? I think
Yeah.
she coughed or something. Literally, she was murdered. Okay.
Yeah.
So real quick again, here's 3 of my books. I've got a lot more up there. Dating the Dead is an interesting compilation of stories about our relationships with dead people. Now, look at this. Here's Kevin Kane's book. So he's got that on Amazon.com. I grabbed that picture from Amazon instead of him throwing up that wrinkled up piece of paper. It is he's got that painting. You see that person in that book cover. He's got that. I don't know if it's still hanging in his house or went storage, but he's got that painting. This story is loosely based on a true story that he turned into a novel, The Blood Painting. Excellent book that you should help out us poor authors, starving artists, right?
Yeah.
Kevin Kane, myhaunteddogs.com, and of course, I'm abnormalalabama.com. Thank you for joining us. And Kevin, I hope you have a good night.
And you too.
And I look forward to doing this again. If you have time and you want to throw in an extra night, like Friday night or something, just let me know. We can go another hour, 2 hours, or whatever.
All right.
And you know, promote ourselves, right? And entertain people. Everybody's stuck at home. The theaters are closed. Everything's locked down. You can't even go into a restaurant and eat anymore.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad and pathetic, but we can entertain you. Creepy kids, haunted dogs. What are we going to talk about next time?
Partridge in a pear tree. I don't know. What should we talk about? Gosh, I don't know.
What about the Black Knight satellite thing? You familiar with that?
Yeah, I heard about that. We talked about that sometime last year with Frank.
We kind of touched on it, but we never got too far with it.
Yeah.
We'll think of something. I'll put out a little tease as soon as we come up with something, and we'll make it entertaining. And Kevin can always do some more of these creepy sayings. Yes.
Things kids say.
Yeah. But thank you, everybody, for joining. And this will be archived on all the places that it can be archived. I hope you enjoy it. Share this stuff. Share our websites. And join us on YouTube. We really need subscribers.
Yes.
And buy our books. We got to sell some books. Books. Okay. Everybody have a good night. Peace and love.